Well, hello. Thanks for coming back to check out another video. So, we are here today to film a Pan Those Eyeshadows update. I'm not quite sure what update this is, but it will be in the title for you guys. So, of course, if this is your first time seeing this, let me just quickly go over some things. Pan Those Eyeshadows was originally created by Alexi. I don't believe she's uploading content at this particular point, but I do still like to leave her YouTube channel linked down in my description box. So this has kind of taken on a life of its own. Everyone does it so differently. I fell in love with the way Laney from Makeup by Laney has been doing hers this year. So she came up with 100 prompts. You randomize a prompt, and that is how you pick out your eyeshadow to work on. There are some other people doing this as well as Laney and myself. The only people that I am familiar with are Ruth and Misty. However, if you are doing it this way too, please let me know down below so that I can include you in my description box, because I just think that it's always nice if you're loving a particular kind of like video or like content style, you can go and find other people who are doing it as well. So yes, like I said, this was created by Laney. She did come up with 100 prompts. My goal for this is to have 6 eyeshadows in. This is a more laid back project pan for me. I'm just happy if I can use every eyeshadow at least 1 or 2 times within the month, if not more. My ultimate goal is to hit pan before I can roll out a shadow, and I just want to work through all 100 products. I want to work through all 100 prompts with no, like, the end date will be once we get to the end, and then we'll decide what we want to do from there. So I think that's all of the introduction stuff that I have to go over with you guys. But of course, like I said, I do leave everything linked down in the description box for you just in case you're curious. And as well, if you have a question, you can always sound off down in the comments. Alright, so let's first talk about bonus pans before we get into this actual update. Now, when I say bonus pans, I mean like, oh, these were hit organically, like I wasn't working on them in any other project. So on the screen, I hope to leave for you our pan percentage from last month versus this month. Again, I don't have any real goals with pan percentage. I just want to see it grow, you know? So I haven't calculated it out before sitting down to film this, so I really have no idea where it's at. Also on the screen for you, I would like to leave how many total pans I have hit this month. So that includes pans from all my various projects as well as these bonus pans that we will talk about. So I only have 2 bonus pans for the month that I can share with you. They both do come from the Lorac Mega Pro 1 palette. This palette is currently living on my vanity because I think I told you guys last update, this espresso shade, which is the darker brown shade at the bottom here, I have been using this as my eyebrow shade, so that's why it just lives on my desk. So it's really easy to reach for this. And then once I finish this shade, I might see if some of these other browns will work for me as an eyebrow shade, or I might just tuck this back into my collection. But I do try to reach for this when I can, since it is out on my desk. So the 2 new pans that come from this palette are 2 new bonus pans to talk to you about. The first one is this shadow here, which is Merlot. Hopefully you can see that down in there. And then of course we did hit pan and almost finished off this matte cream shade up here. Again, I'm still playing around with like the settings and everything with this camera, so forgive me if anything goes in and out of focus. It's a learning process. But yeah, that is all the bonus pans that I have to share with you. Okay, so let's talk about our color story. I do have it swatched out here on my hand. If this is hard to see, I will put up a picture here. But the first shadow is this matte brown shade. This comes from the Persona Identity 1 palette. It is the shade Charming. Underneath that is a pretty peachy kind of shade. This comes from the BH Cosmetics Lost in Los Angeles palette, and it is the shade WeHo. Underneath that is a very vibrant orange shade, very pretty, from another BH Cosmetics palette. It is the shade Half Full, and it's from the Optimistic AF palette. So underneath that, this is from the Udenzai Hella palette that Angelica Meekvis did in collaboration with them. It is the shade River. It is just one of my absolute, hands down, all-time favorite shades within my collection. Underneath that, I think it'll be a little bit harder to see because it is such a light pinky shimmer shade, but this is Pearl. This comes from the Carnival 3 palette that Stacey Marie did in collaboration with Be Perfect. And then this dark matte blue underneath it is a cream to powder eyeshadow that comes from my Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. So I tried my best to swatch these out in like what's been in here the longest versus the newest, but I might not have it exactly right. However, I do know that these first 2 shadows, the Charming shade and the WeHo shade, have been in since the introduction. So let's talk about those 2 first. I'm going to scoot over just a little bit so that I can put up a picture of what the shadow looked like at the last update versus this update. I just think that that's a little bit easier. You can get a really nice close-up view. So like I said, this Charming shade, we will talk about this first. So it's just an unassuming, like, neutral matte brown shade within this palette. I am starting to see a little bit of a dip on this. This is such a long haul eyeshadow though. I really think that before I even rolled it into this project pan, it had like 30 uses on it. And I think we're quickly approaching having 20 uses on it just within this project. So I don't know how long it'll take to actually hit pan. I try to compare the dip on it to like the pans that I have already within this palette, and I'm just not sure. I think maybe like another month or two. I do want to make this a focus shadow for like the coming month to try and see if I can have this rolling out by the next update. It's not a bad shade and I really do enjoy it, and it pairs so nicely when I want to do a neutral eye look. It's just since it's been in since the beginning, I'm like, it's time for you to roll out, you know? And I kind of have the same feelings about this WeHo shade that comes from the Lost in Los Angeles palette, just because it has been in since the introduction. So again, it's this peachy shade right here. I am starting to see a little bit of a dip on this. It's not as prominent as the dip that I'm starting to see within the Charming shade. However, I do think that this is a little bit more of like a powdery formula versus this Persona one. So I think that again, if I just focus in on this and try to switch off, like maybe do more pinky purple looks that I can incorporate this peachy shade into in the month, and then trade off and like the next day do a neutral look, like I really could focus in on both of these and potentially have both of them rolling out next month. But both of these, like I said, they're just great transition shades. I really like to lay them down as my first initial like shade in order to build other shadows up on top of them. They help blend things out, and they've become great staples within my collection. So there's those first two. Okay, so the next shadow to talk about comes from the BH Cosmetics Optimistic AF palette. So it is the shade Half Full, which like I said is the very bright, vibrantly orange shade. So I feel like this shadow did get a little bit neglected within this past month. I think I only reached for it 2 times. This particular shadow is a little bit more tightly pressed than like that WeHo shade, even though they both come from BH Cosmetics. They both perform really nicely, so I'm not like upset. Like I don't think it's necessarily like a difference in formula. I just think this one, since it is darker, you need less, and then it is pressed a little bit more tightly. So I'm not seeing any real disturbance within the pan. I don't think you're going to see any real disturbance within the progress pictures that are on the side of the screen there. So I don't know. I don't know how much longer it'll be in. I really think that this will be a shadow that I tend to pull out more once the fall hits. Just for whatever reason right now during the summer, I'm really enjoying doing like much more pinky eye looks like what you see today. Alright, so let's talk about the Udenzai Hella palette. That was a collaboration palette between them and Angelica Nyqvist. So of course, I'm working on the shade River, which is this really pretty like kind of duo multi-chrome shadow. I think that was the prompt that was in for this particular shadow. This is my lid shade that I have on today, mixed in with that WeHo shade, these 2 pink shades from this palette, and then this darker like plummy purple shade is what's in my outer V. I really love this eye look. I love pairing this River shade with just a multitude of different colors. Like I just think it always ends up being so pretty. So I do think that there is a dip on this. It's not, I don't know if it's changed so much between the last update and this update. This already had a dip on it when I did roll it in. And if I'm not mistaken, I did have somebody tell me like these Udenzai pans are deceptively deep, like this is going to take a while. And I'm okay with that because like I said, this River shade is one of my absolute favorite shades within my collection. So I'm just having a lot of fun playing around with it and incorporating it into a lot of different eye looks. Alright, so let's talk about the Be Perfect Carnival palette that Stacey Marie did in collaboration with them. The reason that I hesitated was because I just realized, like, Haley, you normally film your updates and you talk about things that are rolling out and then things with progress, and I didn't do that this update, so I'm very sorry. But either way, we've been working on this shadow from in here. It's the shadow Pearl. This palette is so large, I don't really know like how to hold it. But Pearl is this light pink shade. Like I told you guys, I do have this on today as my inner corner highlight. That's how I've gotten a lot of uses out of it, as an inner corner highlight shade. It's just this really pretty like icy pink kind of shade, and I feel like it goes really well with a variety of different eye looks, not just like pink or purple eye looks necessarily. Like pairing it with more blue eye looks has been fun, and pairing it with reds has also been fun as well. I don't think I've tried it out as a lid shade. I do want to try to do that this month. I will say that the shimmer shadow, at least this one, now I haven't used every shimmer shadow within this palette. I haven't even used every shade within this palette, but this particular shade, Pearl, it is on the more flaky side, so I'm a little hesitant to use it as a lid shade because I feel like when I use those more flaky eyeshadows as lid shades, they tend to crease up on me. So I'm just enjoying it as an inner corner highlight, and that might be the only way that I tend to use it. But I do really enjoy those icy pink shades, so I do kind of want to force myself to at least try it out one time as a lid shade. Okay, so I think I had it in my head, like, save the best for last, and that's why I kind of, like, messed up on the flow of how my videos normally go. But either way, this is the shade Enigma from the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. Now, this has been in longer than some of the other shadows that we did talk about. So, this is Enigma right here. It is a very dark blue shade. In the pan, I feel like it always looks like a black, but as you can see in the swatch, it is a dark blue. This is a cream to powder shadow. So I find that with her cream to powder shadows, they are a little bit more easy to hit pan on, at least for me in my experience. So I really thought that last update I would have already had pan on this because I think I had 7 uses when we first rolled it in on this shade. Did not hit pan. I think I used it 6 or 7 more times. Again, the usages are on the screen for you guys, but I was able to finally hit pan on it, as you can see from the progress pictures. I'm really excited about that. I really do enjoy this palette as a whole. I'm really happy that overall now we have 4 pans of eyeshadow within this palette. And I did, when I was using the Enigma shade, I tried to explore more of this warmer half of the palette, and I feel like I wasn't bad at it. Like, I did explore more of this palette than I ever have in owning it, but I didn't do as good of a job as I maybe could have. Like, I know I did not use every shadow, like, within this warmer half of the palette. So, but I am glad that this is rolling out. So that means that we get to roll in a new eyeshadow. So let me first clean off my hand. I will get my phone pulled up and we will see what number we get. All right, so I have Pretty Random pulled up on my phone, and of course in the description box I will also try to leave Laney's Google Docs spreadsheet so that you can see all 100 prompts. Now, some of these prompts are repeating, and I think that that's really fun because the repeating ones are like the more fun ones, we'll say. So it's like prompts that you would want to get more than once, you know? I have not taken off from the spreadsheet that I made using her prompts. I have not taken off any of the prompts that we have completed. So if we happen to roll a number that we've already worked on, we'll just re-roll. So just one number, 54 is what we get. I don't think that we've had prompt 54. Let me go and check and make sure. All right, so we have not had prompt 54, and prompt 54 is a shadow that starts with the letter C. So I'm going to go look through my collection and see what I can find. I will just, however, tell you guys, I'm going to first look at all the palettes that I already have within this project pan and see if there's any shades in there that start with the letter C that I feel like I could work on, kind of like bring in and make it work with all of the other shades that I'm working on, just because I have so many palettes. And so if I can have one palette that has 2 shades from it, I'm just going to make it easier on myself and do that. Alright, so that didn't take long at all because I was able to find a C shade that is already within one of the palettes that I'm working on. So, from the BH Cosmetics Lost in Los Angeles palette, there is a very pretty shimmery blue shade within here called City of Angels. So it starts with the letter C, it fits the prompt, and that is what I'm going to be rolling in. So this is what it is. It's down here in this bottom corner right here. But again, I'll put up a picture just in case the ring light is washing it out a little bit. And then I did swatch it out on my hand. So this is a very pretty, kind of like, I wouldn't say icy blue shade, but it's definitely not super light or super dark. Like, it's kind of in the middle. I just feel like this is going to be really pretty to work with other shadows that I'm already panning. And this is really interesting and unique because it has a little bit of like a pink purple glitter to it. And so I feel like in the swatch, at least like in real life, I don't know how it translates on camera, but you can very much see that little bit of blue, like pink and purple to it. So I just think this is going to be a lot of fun to pull in and incorporate. I think this is going to pair beautifully with my Pan That palette. So yeah, I'm just really excited. I hope that you guys enjoyed this update. I cannot wait to catch everyone else's Pan Those Eyeshadows update because, like I said, since this was a project that's taken off and like taken a hold of the community, you can just easily search out Pan Those Eyeshadows and find a ton of content to binge watch. That is it though for this update. I hope you guys are having a good day, a good night, or a good whatever, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.